Advisor would like to welcome Ceasar Anquillare, who is Chairman and CEO of Winchester Capital. Ceasar, great to see you again.
Great to see you, Claudia. Thank you for inviting me.
Our pleasure. Please tell us a little bit about Winchester and your role.
I'm the co-founder of Winchester. It was founded by myself and the family office of the late Averil Harriman, who was America's ambassador to Britain. So we are a boutique. We are one of the specialized transatlantic boutiques, and we've been in business for about 30 years, although I don't look that old. I was a youngster when it started. And we've done very well as a firm. I mean, we've conquered some of the largest transactions that are within the grasp of our larger investment banking brethren, above $1 billion, but we specialize really in the $500 million to $1 billion range.
Let's talk about the political climate right now. So much uncertainty with the election here in the U.S., with Donald Trump winning the presidency, and then, of course, Brexit. You're on a panel today as an expert on Brexit. Let's talk about, what's going on in this era of uncertainty.
Uncertainty is a good thing because uncertainty always presents new challenges, and out of new challenges will arise new opportunities. So I am a firm believer that the only thing permanent in life is change, and that the advent of Brexit in the UK and also the advent of Donald Trump here and his success is a good thing for America. Historically, when the Conservative Party governs and the American Republican Party governs, as in the days of Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, there is a synchronization of objectives, economies, and capital markets. So I'm very optimistic over the American election. I'm very optimistic that we are now entering into an era of good feeling where the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Britain will be back to addressing each other on a first-name basis.
Let's move over now to Brexit, and your firm handled one of the big transactions following Brexit back in June. Tell us about that.
I'm very proud of my firm and of my team. The transaction was Morrison's, the UK's largest energy infrastructure group, 4,000 employees, and one of Britain's most successful companies in its niche. I think what happened was the earthquake of Brexit set a tremor off, and like many firms, there was a shadow of doubt as to whether or not ours and other transactions would be completed. The most important thing during challenging times is to maintain faith in yourself and your company. My team performed extremely well, and you probably know that shortly after Brexit was announced, ours wasn't the only one that went ahead and completed. There were approximately $34 billion in transactions which completed. Brexit did not prevent, for example, Japan's SoftBank from acquiring ARM holdings in the UK for over $24 billion. It did not prevent the Wrexham transaction, which was another $9 billion that was acquired by Ball of the United States. So my feeling about Brexit is that it demonstrates a resiliency which is unique to Britain and America. We are two countries that will always be united militarily, but also economically, who've invested in each other. I mean, by way of example, in 2015, there was about $50 billion that moved from the US into Britain on acquisitions. And even though Britain is a smaller country by population and by GDP, almost the exact same amount in reverse, about $51 billion. It's really the testimony to the faithful marriage that exists between the two countries.
Ceasar, what do you see down the pike post-Brexit?
I think I see a lot of opportunity because, as I mentioned, the only thing permanent in life is change, and change will create newer and greater opportunities than we've envisaged. There are also ingredients that favor an increased amount of investment. For example, there's approximately $3 trillion in dry powder existing in corporations and private equity firms that needs to be invested. Many of these firms accept money transatlantically. So that will be a stimulus to additional activity. I also feel that there's been a lot pent up because people have not done deals because of Brexit, because of the presidential elections in the US. And with the stability that will come after these events in 2017, I think we'll have the wind in our sails. and we'll have a great year.
Ceasar, where do you see the greatest opportunities for investors, both in the UK, investing globally, and vice versa?
I think the greatest opportunities right now are currency driven. So with the pound at 124, there are many American companies which wanted to consider a UK acquisition but couldn't, so it's much more affordable. The UK is also the greatest aircraft carrier from which an American company can conquer Europe because the laws are extremely similar and capital markets are very friendly. So I think that mid-sized companies who previously may not have been able to consider an acquisition will now find it more possible. And I also believe that there'll be more financing available within UK capital markets to achieve that.
So it sounds like the forecast, as you see it for 2017, is pretty good for M&A activity.
I think that with the conclusion of the American election and the decision which we are now waiting from the British courts that we should have by December the 5th, the stability elements that basically put Brexit and put the American election behind us are basically going to trigger a buoyancy that we haven't seen in a while. For example, there's approximately $3 trillion in dry powder existing in corporations and private equity firms. Everyone, as you said before, was concerned about uncertainty. Now we have certainty. And once we have certainty, we'll have growth.
Terrific insight as always, Ceasar. Thank you so much for joining us on the M&A Advisory.